Hi everyone, welcome back to the second portion of basic HTML and XHTML. Just to reiterate what I went over for the first video, there are two important sections of your HTML page. There's the head and then the body. The body displays everything out to the browser that people will see, and the head section basically display or tells the browser information about the page. So like you have your title, and then you also have your meta information, so keywords, descriptions, all that stuff that affects search engine optimization. But going back through, you have to have your opening tag and closing tag to be XHTML standard, and then also the ordering of the way that you put things in is important. So if you have a list item, and then within that list item you have a bold tag, you have to close the bold tag first and then close the list item, and that makes a big difference. Other than that, I haven't gotten much further than that. This tag here, the paragraph, you'll notice the way that a paragraph displays is a little bit different than if I were to put in a break, and I'll explain that here in a second. If I get rid of these and just have my plain text as I had before, and I put in a new line, and save it, if I refresh my page out here, you'll notice it actually doesn't put in a return as I had put in my HTML. I manually have to put in a break, and just a BR tag is a break, so it'll return it down one line. So if I save it and refresh, you'll see that it puts in that extra line. Now, if I didn't want that and I want to actually have a nice space in between the two, I can use a paragraph tag, which actually has spacing automatically put in for me. So it's got padding and all that stuff already formatted. And then if I do the same thing with this one, and then save it, refresh the page, you'll notice there's a bit more of a space in between the two. That's good for just regular body tag or in your body. If you have regular content and you want to have a nice little space in between the two, wrap it in a paragraph and you'll be golden. If you just want to do just a one line carriage return, then put in the break tag and you'll be golden. The next thing I'm going to talk about is the horizontal rule, the HR tag. And you probably have already noticed that the BR tag just has the slash rather than something like this. It's just shorthand for writing this line out here. So, but it just makes it a little bit easier. So now if I save it, horizontal rule will actually put a line across the page, just like that. With my last video, I basically covered the basics, and that's kind of what I just explained there. But now I'm going to get into tables, because I think tables is a good place to start before I get into div tags. Div tags can get a little confusing, and it's hard to position things with div tags unless you use styling. So unless you want to get into styling, tables is a good alternative for your web page layout, but I would definitely recommend looking into CSS styling and also using div tags, because they're a little bit quicker. The content of the div tag doesn't have to be loaded in order for it to get positioned correctly, and then which makes your page load times quite a bit quicker. And then also they're a hell of a lot more flexible than tables are, because tables you have to do call span and row span, and I'm just going to stop right there before I start confusing everybody. But if I go back into my HTML document here and put in a table, put in a table row, and the table row is the horizontal row that I'm in, and within that you have to have table data cells, or 2D tags, and this is my row 1, or column 1 I should say, call 2, and I'll just do a third one. Alright, now if I want to put in another row, close out that table row, put in a new one, and add a table data cell. Alright, now that I have my structure set up correctly, I'll save it, refresh the page, and you'll notice that that's kind of hard to see, so I'm just going to add an attribute to my table tag of border equals 1. And that's how you set attributes for your table. If I go back to my HTML, refresh, and you'll notice that I forgot to add in another TD tag, and I did this on purpose because in this particular case, let's say you had a right column that you wanted to use as your navigation for your web page. You'd have to go do something like this. So you need to do TD, oops, and just do a row span. And what this does is you have to tell it how many rows you want this column to stretch. I want to do 2 because I have 2 rows. So if I save it and refresh that page, you'll notice that it stretches correctly. But now if I wanted to switch that over to the other side, I would actually have to change all that code. And it gets to be a hassle, and that's why I would rather use div tags over tables. But I'm not going to get too much further into that. I just wanted to show you how the tables work, and then we'll go from there. But this is excellent for displaying information such as data information for I don't know, if you have a chart or something like that and you have columns and rows or a spreadsheet, this is excellent for displaying that kind of information. But let's say I just don't want to do 2 rows, but I want to make this second row here stretch. So I'll do call span and do 2, and I'll save it, refresh, and you'll notice that it applies correctly. I'm not going to go too much further into this. There's plenty of HTML tags. I just wanted to cover the basics and get you guys up to speed with that. But I'm going to go ahead and get started with div tags next and show you how div tags work and all that stuff. And then I'm also going to do some span tags and stuff like that. These are the 2 that I usually use the most, and you'll probably see the most in your web development adventure there. So stay tuned for the next video.